ESPER ZERO is an S-rank Cosmos sub-DPS and also our main character. They specialize in a quick swap heavy playstyle, only shortly taking the field to cast their skill and ultimate, then leaving as quickly as they came in. Due to their instant cycle tag, ESPER ZERO is highly efficient in, well, instantly generating cycle rate, allowing for frequent and guaranteed access to the Blossom, Damodar and Charge Esper cycles without a high reliance on enemy attack patterns to fish for parries. Welcome! I am Rivyn Elowen, but you may call me Rivy, and this is your complete guide to NTE's main character, ESPER ZERO. Our beloved MC features a 5-part basic attack string, a plunge attack and also a critical riposte, which is a counter attack we can perform right after triggering a perfect dodge, but they also do nothing special and we prefer to not use them outside of the first days of the game's release, so let's talk about the skill instead. ESPER ZERO features an up until now unique tag, Instant Cycle. This tag effectively overrides the true cycle generation rate of their skill and guarantees to always fully fill up their cycle gauge anytime their skill is used. On his 16-second cooldown, their skill inflicts some damage, generates us 100 cycle rate, and that also allows us to leave the battlefield as quickly as we came in. In addition, this skill will deal a huge chunk of extra damage against the first enemy hit that is of a lower level than our MC, and unfortunately for us, this is actually a problem, as the max character level is 80, and all endgame bosses are at least level 82, making the skill much worse damage-wise in any endgame content. This will also become relevant again later on for her Awakening 6. Their ultimate deals a large chunk of damage in a large area, and most of ESPER ZERO's gameplay revolves around this ability. Well, and their skill of course. This is emphasized even further not only by their awakenings, more on that later, but also their second passive, which grants an up to 25% damage bonus to the ultimate. Their first passive restores ESPER ZERO's HP equal to a percentage of their base attack whenever the active character gains ultimate energy from the ESPER cycle effect Charge. This effectively simply works as a pseudo-sustain for them. Their support skill deals some damage upon use as well as inflicting a good amount of break, and that's about it. Usually I won't cover the life skills of a character as they are not really combat relevant, but I actually will make an exception for our MC because, well, it is combat relevant. At affinity level 10, each character gains a pretty significant stat boost, and because ESPER ZERO's life skill increases the affinity gained, leveling their life skill will allow us to hit bond level 10 much quicker. If you would rather save resources, however, this is simply a time saver rather than a direct damage gain, so yeah. Because all of their damage comes effectively from their ultimate and skill, we want to prioritize our skill levels as such. Focus first on unlocking their passive 2, then level their ultimate and skill, followed by their support skill, then their basics, and lastly their passive 1. Because passive 1 effectively fixes skill issues, if you don't have those and are low on resources, you can also leave the skill simply locked. As already mentioned, ESPER ZERO is rather simple to play and does not want to take all too much field time. If we have our ultimate available, depending on the cartridge set we run, we have 2 different combos. Well, technically they are the same combo, just in a different order. With a 4-piece Lost Radiance or a Speedy Hedgehog, we want to switch in, optionally using our support skill, then cast her ultimate into her skill and switch out again. If we run Shadowcrete instead, we want to first cast our skill, then our ultimate and switch out. More often than not, we want to have our ultimate ready however when casting their skill, so most of the time our actual rotation will be to simply switch in, using their support skill, then cast their skill and switch out again. ESPER ZERO's awakenings are mixed. Because all relevant endgame will be against bosses that are of a higher level than 80, their Awakening 6 does absolutely nothing. The same can also be applied to their A1. Their Awakening 2 grants an additional fixed 8 ultimate energy every time we cast their skill, and depending on your teammates' rotation and setup, this can lead to an additional ultimate. Otherwise, well, this is gonna do nothing as well. Awakening 3 grants us an additional 50% crit rate for our ultimate only, further amplifying the ultimate reliant playstyle, and also their Awakening 4, which does so as well. Lastly, their A5 grants us a 10% attack buff when entering the field with a support skill, and well, that is our ideal scenario anyway, so yeah. Both resonance levels are honestly just great, and you will inevitably obtain them at least somewhere anyway. Focus first and foremost on unlocking their Awakening 3, followed by the Awakening 5, then A2 and A4, and lastly the remaining ones in any order you would like, as they unfortunately don't do anything anyway.
Most people skip right here, so hi, welcome! I hope you have a great day and my calculations will help you out. If you are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. Statistically, there is a good chance you are not yet subscribed. Thank you. I love you.
Day Off is the only solid type weapon that grants us the necessary charge efficiency to sustain the ultimate on a low cycle, and it is effectively the best in slot choice most of the time, at least up until Hotoli's signature releases. Other weapon options come somewhat close in performance, but I would recommend to simply stick with Day Off, as it makes playing them much smoother and allows for more set options, as we will see now. ESPER ZERO's most generic cartridge choice is Lost Radiance, and for most teams also what I would recommend you going with. That is primarily because we are likely to already run another support, such as Sakiri or Haniel, and they are likely to already wield said Speedy Hedgehog. The more time you spend on MC, the better Lost Radiance becomes. If you don't have another Speedy Hedgehog holder, however, in the team, such as Haniel, I would recommend that one instead, as MC's damage contribution is rather low, making it more worthwhile buffing other characters instead of their own damage. This is also where the weapon Day Off becomes more relevant again, as a Speedy Hedgehog requires you to cast your ultimate, and more charge efficiency means more ultimates, and hence also a better uptime on the sets buff for your team. Both Fireflies and the Forest, as well as Crimson Twin Butterflies, are another option that comes somewhat close to Lost Radiance, but are held back by a worse build path, losing out on stats from the Type 3 specialization, and also require another anima or incantation main DPS in the team respectively, such as Mint, Nunnally, Gioan, or even Adler. While better substats can make up for the difference, I recommend to stick with either Speedy Hedgehog or Lost Radiance. Shadow Creed also heavily suffers from build path options. For your cartridge's main stats, crit rate or cosmos damage will both yield you the best results, with other options being just slightly worse. Whether you choose crit rate or cosmos damage, well, just choose whatever has better substats. ESPER ZERO has a Type 3 specialization, granting her 10% attack for each Type 3 module equipped, and hence focus on filling out your layout with as many Type 3 modules as you can, while fulfilling your set's requirements. When running Lost Radiance, this one will be your ideal layout. And this is your ideal layout when running Speedy Hedgehog. As for your substats, focus primarily on crit values and damage bonus, then attack percent. The same priority also applies to your cartridge, just with higher numbers. Due to MC's instant access to the Blossom Remoda and charge Esper cycles, they are surprisingly good in many teams. With a Daffodil and Haniel at its core, Nunnally, Mint, and even Gioan make for a great primary DPS. With ESPER ZERO, we are able to generate us 3 blossoms directly at the beginning of a fight. We begin combat on Daffodil, then switch into Haniel to trigger Nova, cast her skill and ultimate, and switch back to Daffodil, triggering Nova yet again. We cast her ultimate and her now enhanced skill, then switch to our MC. We switch again to our Anima DPS of choice, triggering Blossom, then switch back to our MC, casting their support skill for the second Blossom, ultimate and skill. We now can switch back to our Anima DPS using the support skill again for the third and the last Blossom. This is just an example of how we can effectively utilize our main character to trigger 3 Esper cycles in a row. If you don't have Daffodil, Sakedi or Adler will work in the third slot as well, both allowing for the Hexed Esper cycle, boosting your Anima DPS's output even further. Please note that Adler does not have access to his second passive here, making him lose out on a bit of value. If you want to make sure Adler doesn't lose his passive, you can run him instead of Haniel and play with Daffodil in the third slot. If you prefer to run Hathor or Skia as your main DPS instead, that is not a bad composition either, but preferably you would want to run our MC, Hathor or Skia, Jiwan and Haniel instead, with Jiwan functioning as a burst-oriented sub-DPS, allowing for the charge Esper cycle for massive ultimate energy generation for Hathor or Skia, and Haniel works as a generic buffer that grants us access to Stain to boost Hathor and Skia's damage output even further. Esper Zero's biggest strength is their repeated and frequent access to the instant cycles, a very low field time requirement while also being very easy to play, primarily needing you to press a single button once roundabout every 16 seconds. They are also free and don't require a high investment in terms of main or substats, as their damage contribution is honestly rather low. On the other hand, well, their damage contribution is rather low. They have multiple set options available and are simply a great free-to-play unit for many Blossom and Charge teams. However, they are also heavily reliant on their skill and ultimate, and their Awakenings 1 and 6 are, well, rather lackluster. And with that, we are at the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave me a comment on your thoughts about our MC Esper Zero and join the Discord. A special thanks to my YouTube and Patreon members who make this content possible. I appreciate all of you and wish you a great day. Peace!